Another riding season, and what the hell am I riding? Hello YouTube, Region Rat Rider here. It is a wet end of March, beginning of April. I think it's March. Yeah, it's still March. A little damp this morning, but I decided to get out on my bike anyway, seeing how it's a new motorcycle. So yeah, I did a thing. I bought a new bike, and it's not a street glide, it's not a road glide, it's a no glide is what I like to call it. I bought a 2024 Heritage Classic. Now I know there's a lot of people out there going to be like, the hell were you thinking? Why'd you buy that? Why'd you downgrade to a Softail? Well, I'm going to tell you why. I downgraded, if you want to call it that, to a Softail because I don't do a whole lot of touring anymore. I'm not saying I won't ever go to Sturgis again. I'm not saying that, you know, is an impossibility, but I certainly am not going on thousands of miles of roads a day anymore. I may do a couple hundred miles a day every now and again, but the days of the 5,000 miles a month, they're kind of over. Most of the riding I do is on the weekends, and it's 150 miles here, 200 miles there, and for that I don't need a touring bike. So the advantages of a Softail, especially this Softail, is that you still have some storage. You know, I'm going to put a rack on there. I have actually a Harley Davidson luggage bag that I can put on here, but it's like 200 pounds lighter than my Ultra Limited was, and that's a lot of weight. This thing to me feels as light as air. It doesn't feel like a heavy motorcycle. And as I'm getting older, and you know, the sins of my past with football and wrestling, and all my joints are starting to ache, it's more comfortable to be on a lighter motorcycle. It's still not, you know, 500 pound, you know, something that's going to get super knocked around in the wind. But it, you know, it's 200 pounds lighter than my Ultra Limited was, and I gotta be honest, I feel it the second I start riding. It just feels so much better for my joints and my body at age 50 than the touring bike did. And since I'm not getting any of the advantages of a touring bike, I figured, why buy another touring bike? There's people looking at me because it was really, apparently we had like a flash rain just a couple minutes ago. It still looks kind of shitty outside, but it's not raining now. Anyway, so that what started to lead me down the path of thinking maybe I wanted a Softail. And I remember test riding these when they first came out, and I sat on a 2017 or 2018, I forget which year it was, Heritage, and I was like, oh yeah, I could have a lot of fun on this bike. Well, the second I put my legs over a new Softail again, this being, I think I got this bike a month ago, that feeling came back, and I was hooked. I was like, I'm not, because I had thought, you know, maybe I'll buy like a used Road King was my thought, You know, because I really don't take advantage of much of the touring or the fairing business. I'm going slow because it's wet outside. So I was like, maybe I'll get a Road King. And then, but then I sat on this, I was like, oh, it's sold. I was actually going to buy a used one, but because the 2025s had just come out, they gave me this one, which was brand new. I mean, it has 30 miles on it right now, and 29 of them I put on it. They gave it to me for the same price. It was like 40 bucks a month or something like that more to buy a new one versus a 2021. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll buy the new one. So actually it is raining now. So here we are. And it also made me wonder, I mean, Harley, I'm sure you guys have seen the videos or, you know, read the articles on how Harley is in dire straits now. And it made me think, because 30 years ago, and what also spurred this is I watched Terminator 2. 30 years ago, the Harley line to get were the Softails. In the early 90s, that's what everyone wanted. Everyone wanted the Softails. Fat Boy, the Softail Deluxe, that was their most popular models back then. And a lot of it, to be honest, like I said, was because of Terminator 2, because of Arnold Wright and that Fat Boy. So I went back and I looked, because I hear all the time on how expensive Harley Davidsons are. I hear two rumors. Harleys are super expensive, and their age demographic is dying off. So let's look at the cost first. In 1991, and I'm doing this, you know, off of memory, so I may be a little off. In 1991, the sticker price of a Fat Boy, I believe, was like $11,700, somewhere along those lines. If you increased the price to match inflation, that's $26,000 today. But a 2025 Fat Boy doesn't cost $26,000. It costs about $20,000. So a Fat Boy today is cheaper than a Fat Boy was in 1991. And then I was curious about, oh, someone got pulled over. And then I was curious about like a Street Glide. Street Glides came out in, I believe, 2006. I think was the first model year of those. And memory serves, it was like 17.5, I think. 17,000 and some change for a new Street Glide. And if you take that cost and you use an inflation calculator, it costs $28,000. So across both the Softail line and the touring line, Harley Davidson bikes are actually cheaper than they were decades ago. So just food for thought. When someone tells you Harleys are too expensive, when they were selling the most motorcycles they've ever sold, they cost more than they do right now. So that's like that's a fallacy. It's just a fallacy. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the dying off of the Harley owner. Like, oh, well, you know, their average age person is like 40 some years old. Yeah, it is. The average Harley buyer is between, I believe, 35 and 55. Oh, there's a brand new Harley right there. New Street Glide. So between 35 and 55, I believe, is their main demographic. But here's the catch about that. It's been between 35 and 55 for over 20 years. Actually, over 30 years. So what does that say? That says to me, hey, meathead. What that says to me is that Harley just has their age demographic, and people age out of Harley, and as they age out, people age in. Now, where the rub comes in is at one time that 35 to 55 were the baby boomers. So there were a lot more potential customers than, say, between the 25 and 35 demographic for people in 2010 versus 2020, right? But still, to say that all Harley riders are like aging out and I gotta put this back on my RPMs because I'm not allowed to go over. Oh, dang it. I'll get to the one thing I don't like about this bike. I really miss having an instrument cluster here. I don't like looking down. That's the only thing about this bike I don't like. But anyway, from here on out, their demographics being 35 and 55. And as long as there's some huge population drop, it is what it is. I think motorcycles in general aren't as popular right now. I think maybe people are afraid we're going to head into a recession. Maybe people just don't want to buy new motorcycles right now. I mean, I know that, like, my niece, who's a millennial, the idea of her spending a lot of money on something like a car or a motorcycle is completely foreign to her. So that's a problem. But their age thing, really, it's not a problem. So I think that's kind of BS. But anyway, sorry, not quite used to this bike yet. I am going to ride my bike for a while. I'm trying to take it easy because you're not supposed to go above 3,000 RPM or anything like that until you have 500 miles on there. And I haven't hit 500 miles yet. But I'm going to enjoy my ride. And I'll talk to all of you later. I will do a walk around and review of this bike. Probably, I don't know, I like to give it like a couple, I like to give put like 1,000 miles or so on the bike before I start really thinking about like what I really love and what I don't love about it. So it may be a couple videos before I get to there. The only thing that I will say off the get-go that I'm not a huge fan of is the tank mounted speedometer slash whatever. I wish there was an option to have like the handlebar mounted speedometer like they have, I think, on the Fat Bob this year. Maybe there is, but according to the Harley Davidson website, that's a no-go. But you know, maybe there's a conversion kit for it. And if that's the case, I'll do that. And the other thing that I'm probably going to do sooner rather than later is this windshield's a little too short for me. So even though I'm not that tall, I'm only 5'10", that's mainly because of my Italian stumpy legs. I have a long torso, so I sit upright on this bike like I'm more in the 6 feet plus range. And this the windshield's just a little too short for me. It only comes up to right below my chin, so I'll have to deal with that, but that's an easy fix. So anyway, this is Regent Rider signing out. I hope everyone has a great rest of their weekend, depending on when I post this, and has a great week ahead, and I will talk to all of you later. Oh, and I also plan on shooting a lot more videos this year, but I say that every year, so, you know, grain of salt. Bye-bye.